Well, today at Dead Farmall Garage, here we go again. The minute I told Harold he was well on his way to going out the door, as soon as we finished wiring up these lights, he got angry. Started him up, no charging system. So I proceeded to go inside here to see whether or not the contacts were actually doing their thing, and they are. So either there's a bad ground, which is, these tractors are notorious for that, where this isn't being grounded, or I need to full field the generator, which I'm going to get to in a little while here, and full field the generator by either going to ground on the field side, because one side's power, one side's field. So now that the battery's charged all back up again, that seems a little upside down, but I charged it all day and it's at 13.6, which is where it should be, and so the battery's nice and healthy, because the battery was way down because somebody left the switch on, and luckily the points are open and they're not barbecued because it does start and run good. So, yes, Mercury, we know you're alive. Damn it. Freaking 14-year-old cat. It's annoying. Extremely deaf, too. Or selective hearing. I'm not sure which. Anyway, so the voltage regulator is here, and I need to do some testing on this, and so I'm going to get back to that. And I do want to get these wires run properly. I got them down through the fender, and I've got to get all my connectors in. I just temporaried this up just to see if everybody was going to work, and it is, except the ground side. Speaking of grounds, the ground side should have been this black wire in the harness for the lights in the back of the tractor, which would have been probably just a amber and red light flashing thing, like my other 706, which that thing is mood struck too. Sometimes it flashes, sometimes it don't. Even with a new flasher, it's just weird. I never got to the bottom of that either. Let's see, what else? Oh, yeah. So I decided to follow the wiring harness back, and I clipped the black wire off. I'm going to create a ground, clean this all up good, and create a ground right here. So on the chassis, and that's where that's going to be. So I'm also going to tap into these wires here and run these forward. Run two wires forward alongside this all the way up to there in the front, which, I mean, by all practical purposes will be here. I'll take this panel off. It'll be up underneath there, secured in a loom, so it won't be affected by heat. And then actually what I think I'm going to do, if I can, without too much grief, is I will put the light in this hole, mount the light on this hole, and then use this hole for the wiring to go inside the tractor versus some slobbery weird thing here where it could get damaged. We'll see what happens here, because I have to be able to get inside here, so I'll take this panel off and see what's behind it, and then that'll really tell the story of how this is going to run. I really want this tractor out of here. I need to go back to making money. I got to get this furnace put in, because that thing is junk, and maybe it'll light for you here shortly and you can see what I mean. It needs to go. It's been a noble steed for decades. Yeah, there you go. Well, basically, two burners light okay, and the third one blows off in the Venturi, and I'm not sure what's going on there, but it's been like that for years. As long as I leave it alone, it's okay. Sometimes it misfires and blows a ball of flame out and kicks out the thing, and you got to reset it. So sometimes it makes it through the night, sometimes it don't. But there's so much getting backed up here, in a really bad time for it to get backed up here like that, because I need that new furnace in here to make up air for what's going on in my booth. I have a door that's got to go in there. There's just so much crap that has to happen, and this wonderful little tractor is really become annoying. Harold, you have a bladder control problem, which is another problem too that just reared its ugly head, and I found out that the radiator hold downs have broken loose from the upper core of the radiator, which is bad, very bad. So it can literally rip the radiator apart from vibration. So that really needs to be looked at, but Jesus, that's a lot of taking this thing apart. So if I can limp it through the winter, it's not going to push any snow, it's not going to do anything like that. It just needs to lift heavy steel things and move stuff around, and that's all it needs to do until I get the little farmall going. And I'm going to park this goddamn thing until spring, and enough is enough. Now, I don't know about the axle thing yet because I haven't been able to get it running long enough to get it outside to see what's going on with the axle situation. Maybe it was just really dry, which we all know that's not true. There's something wrong with the bearing, but if it gets lubricated up, it might snap out of it and life will get better. There's so much room for improvement on this 1964 706. It's insane. There's just so much stuff that's been cobbled over time. I'm just happy I got a working gas gauge. I still need to get to the tune-up, which I think is really important, to have spark plug wires that have boots. Much less new spark plugs, you know. And there's just a lot of things. Figures I tighten up the generator belt and now it's not charging. I'm sure that has nothing to do with what happened. It was charging when it came in here. So, why? So, I'm going to end this right now before I get really angry and go home and think about this for a minute. Feed the dogs, you know, fun stuff. Oh yeah, I think that's probably supposed to be through there, but man, that is so crispy. I would imagine that goes through here, but it's really crispy and I'm not going to push things. Yeah, you can see it's cracked. Now, I'm going to bring this up for the guys that don't know how to fix cracked wires like this. There's a product out there you can buy like at a farm store or a lot of auto parts store called liquid tape. I've been using it for years. It is the greatest stuff since sliced bread. I have saved so many wiring harnesses, it's not funny. It works just amazing. Maybe I'll do that on this so I can show off that product and show you what that is so that you can have some of it. Everybody needs to have liquid tape. I mean, that's, if you've never used it before, you're just going to go, whoa, how'd I get through life without it? Yeah, there's also wiring harnesses dangling down here that make not a whole lot of sense. I'm quite positive that this is jumpered out. Cat's got to get in the picture no matter what you do. Get ham. Because I believe that these wires went to this at one point. This failed, and so they just jumpered it, and that probably was a pressure switch of some sort. I can't really see it too well here. There's nothing attached to the back of it, so whatever it was attached to has been bypassed decades ago. So we're just going to tuck that dude back up in there because as long as it's working and doing what it's supposed to do, we're good. The other thing I don't have on this thing, I really want on this at some point, is an oil pressure gauge for the motor. I hate the fact that these tractors didn't have that. They had transmission gauges on the nicer ones. My other 706 does have that, but they don't have an oil pressure gauge. This one doesn't even have the ability to put one on it You'd have to figure out how to plumb one on it, but my other tractor does. So I would assume you probably could come off of here somewhere, or actually this is the cylinder, or the oil pressure switch that's here. So I'm pretty sure you could plumb one in there. It's an odd place for it to be. I don't know why it is there, the oil passage. I mean, I'm not that schooled on the oiling system of this engine, but that's where that is. So if you put a T in that, move this up so this is still there. Oh, that don't work neither. By the way, just saying, the dash light doesn't work on the charging system working, or that. The dash is a effing nightmare of wires, cobbled, broken. Ugh. I was in there once, swore I didn't want to go back again, but I'm gonna probably have to at some point to figure out what's going on there. But again, I don't want to put 100 hours in this tractor. I just want to get it so it works and get it outside. And the minute I say I'm gonna put it outside, it gets angry. I don't know why. It's only 14 degrees, 9 at night. Why would it be angry? I guess I'd be kind of angry too. Harold's getting grumpy. So that's it. We'll call it Grumpy Harold. But the radiator leak is getting to be problematic, and I suppose I'll just throw a stop leak. I know where it's leaking, so we're good there. I know where it's leaking. It's the seam of the top tank of the radiator has sprung a leak where it's bonded together, and that'll be easy for a radiator shop to fix. All of that in its current condition, a radiator shop could fix very quickly and get it back to me at minimal expense. Now, if it breaks the core in the radiator due to vibration and shaking too much, then it's going to have to be recored, and that will be stupid expensive. Or just find a different radiator if you're lucky. So I'd rather fix it sooner than later. So maybe that will be a project for late December. I'm not sure, but I have a ton of stuff to get done. I got to get on this. I just got to. This damn thing really has irritated me. So I need to be doing what I do best, and that's paint stuff and make pretty things and build hot rods. And yeah, have even found a couple other cars I want to buy too, but I haven't got the last two done. So I'm going to be back at this, and I will probably try to film some of the testing on the voltage regulator and alternator so you guys can see how I go about that. We'll just have to come back and see what's going on. But this was my bitch session. I'm done complaining now. Harold, you're pissing me off. I'll be back. So to full field your generator to make sure that component is actually doing its job, and to take one problem out of the way, you got a power wire that runs to your generator, which it puts this out, okay? And the voltage regulator is run by this field wire. When this is grounded, it allows the current to flow from this direct back to battery. Okay, so what you do if you want to full field this is you run this directly to ground to see whether or not the generator is putting out. Now, I already tested this, and it is, and it's extremely loud, but I'm going to go through it again so you guys can actually see what's going on here, and I'm going to full field this. So if you can't hear me talk, this is exactly what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to show you how to check your generator to make sure it's okay. And I have an amp meter hooked up so you can actually see it putting out, and we're going to make sure it shuts off before it overcharges the battery. Obviously, I'll disconnect it, and I'll be the regulator. So this is our amp gauge. Notice that right now we're at about 13.2, give or take. and it's settling back down. Obviously it's going to settle back down to probably about 12.5 to 13 volts fully charged. If it was outside, it would definitely settle down quicker, because the colder your battery is, the more it doesn't want to be outside. And it will let you know that. Okay, so things are going to get noisy. At least you get to hear this thing run for once. It does run well. Oh, but it likes to be choked. It does run well. Okay, so we're going to take this feed and go directly to ground. You can see it arcing a little bit there. There you go. Okay, even heard the motor pull down, and it's charging the battery, and it should go anywhere to 14.6 before the voltage regulator kicks out. So that's enough. We're going to disconnect that. You can even hear how it loads the motor down too when it's charging. Now it's falling back to 13.2. So what this is telling us is either this voltage regulator, and I don't know if I can get that in a picture or not. I'm trying to turn sideways, so how, you know, that's okay. Let's go that way. All right, so I need to, because there's so much paint slathered all over the wires and everything, I need to figure out what's going on here and figure out where the field is, and I'm going to look at the diagram on there too to see which wires are what. I think the blue wire is the battery wire, if I remember the schematics, but I do have that opened up. So I'm going to chase the wires, find out what they do. There's a ground wire that's on the bottom. Let's try to get down here. This is the ground wire that runs from the voltage regulator to the chassis. 90% of all electrical problems in tractors and cars has to do with poor grounding when it comes to the charging systems. Well, there's these things too, which I don't even think you can buy these anymore. Maybe yesterday's tractor still has these. I'd have to look it up. If I need one, I guess I'll have to buy one. But this was working fine. It did conk out once, and I hit it with a hammer and it snapped out of it. So that tells me it's probably a ground. I was probably making it ground through its last bit of grounding, and that's a good possibility. So we're going to look into that. We determine now that the generator's fine, and there's one other test you can do too, is to come back here to the field wire and make sure that the field wire is not broken somewhere. And you can full field once you figure out which one of these is the field wire, which I think it's this one. Let's find out. Manual's open. It's full field it there and see if you get the same test results. Let's see. All right, here's the diagram. Okay, the top wire is the field wire. So the top wire is the field wire, and if you look it up, once you figure out where this is at and what that wire is, where it's hooked up to, you can go through here, and because it's numbered, you can find out what the color code is in this table, which I'll have to go look that up. And let's see, field terminal looks to be 51. So let's see what 51 is. Area 51. Okay, come on, page 51. 51 is, that's the battery terminal according to that, and it's supposed to be red. 52 is the field terminal, and it's supposed to be yellow. Well, that makes sense. And let's see, voltage regulator to generator is light blue. Okay, so that's the power coming in. So this is your battery voltage. The yellow is going to be the field terminal, and the blue that comes off the generator, which is the fat wire on the generator, is the power going back to the battery from the generator. So we got to look for old yeller and then determine which one's the red wire too. Well, they're all painted red. Does that count? So there'll be some scraping and carrying on there, and that'll be the next thing, which is why I have a handy dandy X-Acto knife. So let's figure out which wire's what. Better lighting would be better. Okay, so the problem is with a lot of this, well, that wire does look, and faded wires too, that's another problem. Well, come on. Wow, that's thick paint. Holy crap. Okay, I'm gonna need 2 hands for this. But according to what they said, well, that one looks blue. But that doesn't make any sense based upon what I just saw. Maybe I need to re-look at that, but on how that runs. But according to that, the blue wire runs to the generator. And that does look very blue to me. That paint comes off nice and easy. So, and this wire is really heavy, and there's 2 of them. So I'm going to just assume that this is actually a red wire and it's battery voltage. So that would leave 1 left, and that would be this wire, which is behind there, which I can't get at very well. So that would be the field wire. So the schematics in the book is kind of flipped upside down, I think. I have to look at it again. So we'll go back, look at it again, and see if the top one is the field wire. All right. Okay, yes. The top one is the field wire. Okay, so that makes sense. So if I full field this to ground, it should make the generator put out, and that will tell me the defective part is the voltage regulator for whatever reason. Now, here's the other thing about voltage regulators or contactors. So if there's any kind of corrosion on a contact, you can, and I've done this several times, take a point file, which is what this is, and you can clean those connections and get that black carbon off of there enough for them to live again. They're very simple windings, and it's really not that hard to do. So let's see. I'm not sure. Here, we'll just try and use this one once we're done with it here. And we'll go back over here to the field wire. Now, this has all got paint slobbered all over it, so you really, it's going to be really hard to do this. You know, these YouTubers that can look through a camera and do things, God bless your heart, because I sure as hell can't. Pardon me. Okay, I'm going to do that. Try to see what I'm doing. And so on there. And it won't stay on. Okay. Let's try that in. Well, you're just being a little... Oh, for God's sake. All right, I got to put the camera down, so if you see something, you see something. Alright, we're going to go on top since you don't like it any other way. Wow, never had such a problem putting a connector on here. I may choose to use a different connector that's a little smaller and yet a little user-friendly for a simple freaking test. Yeah, this one sucks. Okay, so I decided to go bigger. You know, that whole go big or go home thing. So that's what we got. Now, okay, I don't know if you saw that or not, but I used a bigger connector. We're going to do the same thing. Fire it up. You're at just below 13. And we're full fielding it. So the wires are good. So it's the voltage regulator. So now we've determined it's a voltage regulator, but why is it failing? Is it not grounded properly? So there's another way to test that as well, and that is go find a good ground on the chassis somewhere, which is what we use the brake pedal, because that's got a good ground. And you can ground the body of the voltage regulator, and it should tell you that answer real fast if it's a ground issue. Just find a good ground. Or you can just actually cheat and loosen up the ground wires and retighten them, and if it snaps out of it, bingo bango, there's your problem. So kind of some simple things, simple tests you can do to determine where you have problems in your charging system. Now I do want to get back to this wiring and stuff, and I'm going to go off camera to do all that because that's simple. I will be running a wire loom for this wire once it's connected here, and I'm going to start on this side and I'm going to work my way back. I'm going to tuck the wiring in behind things so it doesn't get caught with mud or whatever and get distorted, and then it's going to climb up the back of the brakes and probably, well, it's put in here wrong, but I'm going to have it climb up the back of the brakes and go behind here underneath the floor and go across to the other side. I did this as a temporary thing to see if everybody was working, and it actually does give off quite a bit of light. So as long as we're showing that off, we don't have the ground. Like I said, I got to do the ground thing over here, so we don't have that. So we're going to do a makeshift ground. I really do like that I took the factory lights and lighted them up here, because it lights up the ground for me to step onto the tractor at night and see where I'm going. I turned the lights off in the shop to see if I'd like it, and oh my God, do I. It lights up the ground like all the way out to here. So if I'm walking up to my tractor, I really can't see because it's absolute pitch black. That's going to be fantastic. I used old boat trailer wiring to do this. It'll be fine because the LEDs don't really use much for light. As you can see, that is going to be like liquid sunshine behind me. These LEDs, I don't know how strong they are, but they're going to do the job just perfectly. I just need to see my 3-point good, and I need to see what I'm pulling behind me or see around it, and that will do fine. I've got the two kind of, they'll actually end up pointing together to make more of a beam, but this is going to work good for me. So